My current assessment of the precious metals market is, I guess I'd say it's cloudy. And I know that, well, you'll see what I mean by that. I mean, I don't know what the end game is, Adam, but something is happening to me that seems heavily focused on American interests, but that I've never seen before in a very, very, very long career, 35 years. I've never even seen anything remotely close to what we see happening in the gold market. And it started in November, right around Trump winning the election, where the United States, for the very first time, has become a net importer, at least that I can remember, a net importer of gold and silver, not a net exporter, as it always was. There were always the newsletter writers lamenting the fact that metal was flowing eastward, probably never to come back. And all of a sudden, something changed. We've imported somewhere north of 15 million ounces of gold since, in fact, estimates have it even a little bit higher lately, as much as 20 million ounces since last year, November. And to give you an idea of just how big these imports and these deliveries are, and then where they're coming from, look, the amount of gold that's coming into the country right now, Adam, is unlike anything anyone has ever seen before. We saw the largest delivery in the history of the COMEX market in February, 59,296 contracts. That's 5,929,600 ounces stood for delivery in February, surpassing the previous largest order or delivery of 47,132 by 1.2 million ounces. This is the largest delivery ever in the history of the COMEX. And so who's got that kind of money to stand for delivery for, if you take 5,929,600, which is the number of ounces, multiply it times 2,900 plus, your calculator on your iPhone will go E. It's too big to even calculate it. We saw about 15 million ounces of silver stand for delivery in February as well. And, you know, JP Morgan, they used to have a gal named Blythe Masters who ran their trading desk, who always said JP doesn't buy for themselves. It's always for a customer. They delivered 4 billion in gold, billion with a B, to the COMEX in February. One of the largest shipments ever in the history of the COMEX market. What customer has $4 billion? I mean, we can guess. Is it Warren Buffett? Is it Treasury? Is it Federal Reserve? I don't know. But again, since November, roughly between 15 and 20 million ounces that we know of have come from London, just from London. And 40 million ounces of silver plus, maybe as much as 50 million, have come just from London to the COMEX. Now, the interesting thing about where this is all coming from is that London, the London LBMA market is supposedly a T+1 market, where the trade day is T+1 settlement. You're supposed to have access to your metal, in essence, in roughly 3 days. It's now turned into T+8 weeks. Now that to me
Wow.
is pretty much a default. And their excuse is that it is a issue of manpower and trucks. So the Bank of England evidently doesn't have enough in the way of trucks and manpower to move the gold that is supposedly available for delivery. But it's important to understand that when we talk about this game of rehypothecation of paper, where the Western system has been rehypothecating or suppressing the price of gold and silver, and we can talk or debate about what the reasons are, but they have done so using the leverage of paper contracts sold over and over and over and over and over again to the same players. That right now, as an example, there are 279 million ounces of silver stored on paper in London, but only 36 million ounces are actually available. So that means that the other 243 million ounces belong to players like the Bank of England or ETFs or whoever. They're not for sale. But this is standing against 380 million ounces in outstanding spot delivery contracts. 36 million ounces available, 380 million in paper, 10 times plus the leverage or the amount of deliverable contracts than there is gold. And so you have to wonder, is it really a T+8 week situation now because of trucks and manpower, or have they been caught with their hand in the cookie jar? They're 90% short on their ability to deliver. And in silver, Adam, it's even worse. In silver, they have a float, and we just saw actually the LBMA silver stockpile suffered its largest monthly decline since records began, down 8.6% in 1 month to 270 million ounces. So they have 270 million ounces available to be delivered, yet they're trading 2.9 plus billion ounces per day. That's 3.5 times annual global mine supply per day. These are the commercial banks that forever have been able to suppress gold and silver with leveraged futures contracts, naked, not backed by the actual metal to deliver, because these banks had the ability with massive checkbooks really just to overwhelm the speculators. And what's different now, and what I'm trying to get at here, what is different above all else is that we are seeing very large interests, and largely these interests are believed to be sovereign wealth funds, family offices. In fact, when you take a look at the number of deliveries that are coming that are not for the banks, so the bullion banks are selling to other players. These other players are non-bullion banks. 17.5 million ounces of silver was transferred this month in New York from bullion banks to non-bullion banks, making it one of the largest transfers in COMEX history. And it's not the bullion banks. These are very sophisticated traders that are standing for delivery. And they're standing for delivery in London, and they're standing for delivery in New York. But what is really different is my entire career, no one stood for delivery. And I've been doing this 35 years. Nobody stood for delivery. Bullion bank would be like JP Morgan, Citibank, Deutsche Bank, the large commercial banks who are the ones that are the largest traders on the COMEX market and on the LBMA. They're the market makers in essence. They're the big players. And what we see happening, that move from the bullion banks to this other group of traders, largely that are opaque, believed to be sovereign wealth funds, I think really begs the question, why are nation states and why are maybe central banks acting on behalf of, or proxies acting on behalf of a central bank or these sovereign wealth funds? Why are they standing for delivery? This surge in delivery, which we call open interest, it surged over 750%. And why are they all standing for delivery? Originally, Adam, a lot of the thought of this was Trump tariffs. But this is much bigger than Trump tariffs, as far as I'm concerned. And I think it begs a question, but maybe it's even better to lay a baseline. And that baseline is, what is gold? Gold was reclassified by the most powerful bank in the world, the Bank of International Settlements, in 2019, as the world's only other tier 1 reserve asset alongside US dollars and treasuries. So since the end of World War II, there's been one tier 1 reserve asset, US treasuries and dollars by extension, and now it's gold. And if we look at what's happened really largely since 2017, we've seen a massive accumulation of gold by the world's central banks. But there's also been a very stealth phenomenon going on where repatriation has been happening at the highest level, where central banks, 40 of them, have repatriated their gold from the Bank of England and the New York Fed. Now, why would they have left all of their gold at the Bank of England and the New York Fed? Well, first of all, you have Western jurisdiction and Western rule of law. The Bank of England would hold the gold for traders that want to have access to the LBMA, which is a 140-year-old exchange, the oldest gold exchange in the world, that does the majority of the physical settlement. So the COMEX sets the price. London typically is one of the big delivery hubs where people can actually take physical metal. But largely, no one ever really stood for delivery. And to give people an understanding of COMEX, We use it as a gold company. If I have 5,000 ounces of gold in my warehouse, I will sell 5,000 ounces of gold on COMEX. So as the price of gold goes up in my warehouse, it goes down on what I sold short on COMEX and vice versa. It allows me to be market neutral. I'm not going to stand for delivery, and my position is covered. It's not naked. Most of these positions in London and in the New York COMEX are naked. And all of these governments now realize this, and they're standing for delivery. Bank of India, as an example, not only bought more gold over the last 2 years than they have in years and years and years, but they're repatriating all of the gold, taking possession of what they're buying and repatriating it all. As an example, Bank of India brought home 100 metric tons from the Bank of England that they've had stored there since 1991. I'll give you just a brief Google search will pull up a litany of countries that have brought their gold home from, I'll read it to you here real quick, that have brought their gold home from the New York Fed just recently. Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Argentina, the Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Belgium, Egypt, Senegal, Romania, Nigeria, Poland, Ghana, India, Turkey, France, Serbia, Venezuela, Algeria, Cameroon, South Africa, Czechoslovakia. The list goes on and on. This speaks of no longer trusting the system, bringing back what? The only other tier one reserve asset in the world. And they're taking physical possession of it. And that's really one of the most important things to understand, that they don't trust the West anymore. And they're doing it in a very slow, methodical fashion. But it seems all of a sudden things have got much more fever pitch, if you want, fever pace, if you want, accelerating what has been happening slowly for years.